All right, we're going live here, folks. Welcome, 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 welcome. All right, on this live stream that we're doing today, I wanted to share some tools with you that I've been using in my lean, my process improvement, my Lean Six Sigma data analytics work that I've been doing over the years. And one of the problems I have is how can I create an audit trail of everything that has been done when we massage the data and do some things. I'm not saying we're creating anything fraudulent here, but what I'm saying is oftentimes we have to massage the data, filter, sort, scrub it, clean it. But how do we know we've kept a good trail and that we can go back and audit it, right? That's always a challenge. Just look at academia right now. If you search on fraud and misuse of data in academia right now, you'll see it. I don't know why it's not all over the news, but it's all over the other media prints about all these big time Ivy League schools and all the fake data and analysis that they did that no one can repeat. No, well, people can't reproduce and they can't even repeat it themselves, but it's been published. So we know we have a problem out there with probably just dishonesty in general. And, a lot of it, we always think about businesses being dishonest in their data, but academia, man, holy cow, have they been taking it on the chin for, um, just fraudulent data, right? Lousy reports, that whole publish or perish mentality, or trying to be somebody in a big city is just really getting to them. I know that we have similar problems when we're doing our consulting and data analytics and so on, because I've been in situations where I'm looking at someone's data and I'm like, this data doesn't seem right. And people using Excel to scrub their data. They'll go in, do a scrub, save it, and then make some other changes, and then save it, and then do some other changes and save it. And inevitably, it turns out to be a soup sandwich or something wrong. I can't tell you how many times I've come across that. So I always needed an app that was beyond just Excel, where I can have an audit trail. Now, how many of you would love to have an audit trail for the data that you've prepped or data that you scrubbed, and that you need to report? I think it's a big deal, especially if you're working with me. I've seen so many examples working with consultants here and consultants there where we've lost data. We had a hand jam where we're trying to manually put something in. We're trying to create our own lookup join tables on the fly, and something's missing, and we can't capture those mistakes, or someone's innocently make them. Unless you're in academia and you're doing it on purpose, right? But that's okay in academia. So I found this tool that I use, and it's called Easy Data Transform. I've been using it, I got years now, to help me prep and scrub data. And the beauty is it's a desktop application. So I'm using Easy Data Transform. It's a very low cost application to help me scrub my data, understand the nuances of the data, prep it. It can take almost any type of file, and it has an incredible audit trail. Now, the developers of this app do not sell it or do not advertise it as the ultimate audit tool for analytics, but it really is. It should be the head thing. Don't get caught in the trap of the fake academia world, faking your data. Have an audit trail so that everyone can honestly audit your data. So who am I? I'm Dan Feliciano. I own OpEx 90. I've been a consultant for many years, a strategy and change turnaround consultant. I was back in the day when Six Sigma was still hot, and we're seeing it coming back. I'm a GE certified lean master black belt, right? Heavy quant, heavy analytics. I've done a lot of work in M&As. I've done a lot of work in assessing businesses and driving process improvement. Subsequently, a lot of analytics, right? So that's one of my things. I love looking at data. I'm huge into AI and automation. I really think this AI is going to just change the world as we're looking at it. I'm not afraid of it. We should be leveraging it, but it's changing the whole dynamics of what people do and use. So let me step back and open up and do a reading from the Book of Dan. In the age of AI and automation, there are going to be a handful of skills that continue to be important and needed. And AI is not quite ready to take over. So if and there's regular jobs that AI are going to take over. If you're a project manager, we're sorry, buddy, with all the APIs and AI and automation, project management is going to be, woof, it's going to take it on the chin. If you're like a bookkeeper, an accountant, preparing taxes, AI again is going to stick it to you, because anything that's rules-based or rules-driven can be done fantastic by AI. People say, oh no, AI can make a mistake. Oh yeah, so can your humans. Oh no, AI is going to steal our data. So is that employee that's being fired or taking another job. He's walking out the door for a client list there. So I know there are a lot of safety concerns and stuff like that, but there is with anything, and there is when you use humans. The beauty that the way I perceive AI is, some people say, you're just making mistakes more quickly. If you use AI to process, and there's a lot of you out there, especially in that lean Six Sigma world and lean people, we have to have respect for people, the people that are stealing our data. We have to respect for those people that are looking for that next best job already. Well, AI can, if it's going to automate mistakes or do it more quickly, maybe in the beginning, we're stabilizing our processes, and we understand that. I understand that's going to be the case. So I'm going to have AI go in, but at least it will do the same mistake more consistently than the human. And if there's something in our data, in our files, we can take care of it. So we're going to stabilize our work, and then we can standardize it, and we can really optimize it with AI. And you can't convince me otherwise. All the people are like, no, you can't use AI. What about the people? It's going to make mistakes. You'll never know. Well, we can create an audit trail and have the AI check the AI, right? And at least we know what they were thinking when they made that choice or that decision. So I'm all over the AI stuff. But a reading from the book of Dan: in the age of AI and automation, what are going to be the continually needed skills, knowing that it's going to wipe out a lot of white collar middle management, right? It really is, especially anything that's rules based. Critical thinking is crucial and going to be able to be, and it's going to continue to be needed in that world of AI, right? But everyone says, oh, I'm a critical thinker. I can ask anybody 5 questions and quickly identify if they're a critical thinker or not. These same 5 questions, it's the political time of the year, right? We have all these guys running for office, right? They're going to do all this great stuff for you. They're going to solve the world's problems. With 5 questions, I can quickly spot out the critical thinkers from the non-critical thinkers, right? Because we know that all improvement requires change, but not all change is an improvement, right? Complex problem solving. Everyone, again, this is a skill that people like to boast about and have complex understanding, these complex problem skills, but we know it's just not the case. I've created these series of questions to help me quickly pick out the actual complex problem solvers from the ones that are not. So we talked about critical thinking, talked about complex problem solving. The next one, of course, is data literacy. Understanding data, what to do with the data. We had that big data push about 5 or 6 years ago. And oh man, that was a beautiful thing. We can capture data everywhere. We can put it everywhere, and then we can start to massage it. And then of course we can misuse it and find all sorts of false correlations and get everyone's panties in a wad, right? But we have data literacy and understanding what data to use, how to do it, how to present the data, and then more importantly, the statistical thinking associated with it. When we talk about data literacy, we're talking about statistical thinking as well. You need to be able to do more than just say, oh, here our averages are up. That's a good news today, right? We need to understand that variation of the data. We need to understand 70% of our customers will experience this. And that's stuff that you could only get with statistical thinking, understanding the bell-shaped curve, understanding the area underneath that, understanding the probability of a customer experiencing something. That's not averages, right? You know, all these all these big data-driven people looking at averages, we need to understand variation in our data, understand that outliers and how we're actually improving processes. Brings us to data analytics, folks. Data analytics. We have all this data. What are we going to do with it? You see a lot of misuse with it, right? So right now is an exciting time. You say academia. I keep coming back to academia because I'm just like floored by these Ivy League schools that have had all this fraudulent data. But data analytics is going to be a key thing. And actually being able to understand root causes and identify those root causes, not just find some happenstance correlation. And we know that's going to happen, right? But we need to be able to understand and have better grip of it. Innovation's key. How are you leveraging AI and automation? I have the most, I call it social media immunity. The people I deal with and see on social media, AI is not a big, no, AI is not going to affect me. I'm not doing with AI. They're immune to it. I'm like, are you kidding me? And these are people, middle management, rule-based decision driven, government employees that are just following policies and procedures. Whack. Are they going to be surprised, right? So innovation, we have all this AI coming out and the agents are around the corner. I have a fantastic app that will even solve captchas. It can open up screens. It understands the screens. It can solve the captchas, grab data, put it into Google Sheets, send an email, put it into a vector database, keep a memory of it. AI is rocking it. And for us who figure out how to use it and innovate with it, it's going to be golden, especially if you're in one of these jobs that are going to be eliminated or really significantly impact, like project management, finance, accounting, legal, the medical industry, right? Google just released their AI. I think they call it MetaGem or something like that. And I'm convinced that it's going to learn from its own data. It's going to learn from its mistakes and others' mistakes. It's going to rock the world when it comes to making a diagnosis. Just think about the cost of healthcare coming down significantly. And the last one is strategic thinking. Again, we have all these meme strategic thinkers out there. You know, I can ask you 5 simple questions to understand if you really know what's going on and understand strategic thinking and our strategists as a whole, right? Creating goals and objectives isn't strategic thinking. Solving a little problem isn't strategic thinking. It involves much more than it. Understanding the markets, understanding the metrics that you're looking at, understanding how to pivot, when to pivot, understanding that B plan, right? Understanding the 5 forces model from Porter, doing a pesto analysis, understanding what that means, scenario planning, right? Blue ocean strategy. Believe it or not, I wrote a strategy bot for ChatGPT. I call it StratBot or strategy bot. It does 90% of what you want for strategic planning. Really cool bot. And absolutely better than having nothing and spending 25 grand on some consultant that doesn't know any better. So that's just the world according to Dan. And that's a reading from the book of Dan. We're going to continue this. Now we're going to take a look at this app. So again, I want to come back to this idea that we have to do a better job of auditing our data and when we're analyzing our data. And we know that Excel is not the best way to do it. It just definitely isn't, because we keep rewriting the data and we might be able to keep iterations of the workbook, but we tend to overwrite what we've done. And everyone's going to say, oh, I don't do that. Come on, folks, give me a break, right? Cut me some slack here. I've been doing this for a long time. So the app, again, that I'm going to share, I know the owner of the company, but I don't have any real affiliation with them. But I don't even think he knows I'm doing this. I forgot to tell him I'm going to share his app with the world today. So it's called Easy Data Transform. And what I'm going to do is share an example with you. I live in the state of Vermont, and I have results from the 2022 elections, right? And we're going to look at the statewide results from the 2022 elections. But the data, how you can get the data from the Secretary of State, right? You know, we have all these government hacks in there. The data, you could only piecemeal it and download it from Excel, and then you got to recompile it, and then you got to figure out how to stack the data and join the data. I'm going to show you this app that does it really easily, and I'm just going to show you the simple things in the app, not the really complex spreadsheets, because I had to manually download aggregate view of the data. We're going to take that data, and you're going to see it's ugly, right? It's in this massive table, right? Just like you'd expect from the government. You can't understand and do anything with it. So we're going to take that data. We're going to reshape it. I'm going to show you how we're going to unpivot the data. And then we can stack the data. The data is not presented in a way that you can stack it. And we're going to audit the data. As we're doing this, we're going to make sure that we're not gerrymandering with the data and auditing. So we're going to do it for 3 workbooks. And then I'm going to grab another file that we had for candidate listings. And because in that data, it doesn't show us what party they're in. So let's say we're interested in understanding what party they were in, and we want to slice and dice this data up pretty good. So we're going to take a look at how to do it. I think you're going to find it's very, very, very cool, especially if you're in data analytics, especially if you supervise people that are doing a data analytics. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen. And again, we're going to use an app called Easy Data Transform. And I should have contacted the person that actually developed the software so they can see what we're doing. So give me a second here. Let me open up the app. I'm going to share my screen. Got to be careful when you share your screen, right? You don't want to. Oh, so where is it? Hold on. I closed the app. So let me do this. I got to come back in here. We're going to have to start from scratch, folks. That's always exciting to do. So here, let's go. I'm going to share my screen. Let me find that window. Here, this is the app right here. I know you can see it. And it's called Easy Data Transform. All we have to do, folks, you have to love this. All we have to do is drop our data into the app. It can import data. It takes a gazillion different types of file formats. So we can import the data if we want it to do so, or we can drag and drop it. So here, look, you can take it, you can get it from a file format. It has all these different file formats that it can actually grab from, CSV and all those standard file formats. You can copy and paste from a clipboard, or you can drag and drop your data in here. So what I'm going to do is, let me grab the data. I'm going to grab, I know what 3 files we're going to use. I'm going to drag all 3 files in here. And this is for the Senate race, the Vermont State Senate race in the county I live in, right? So imagine if you want to look at the results of the county, not just where you look at, you have to download multiple spreadsheets, and then it's good luck getting it in a format that you can actually analyze it with. So here's the data. So I just copied and pasted the data right into that spreadsheet, right? You're saying no big, all right, Dan, I don't see the magic in this. So we can come in here, we can click on this data, and look at this. We can, if there was too many header rows, or there was rows skipped and we wanted to go, we can select which row to understand. We can ignore empty columns, right? We're bringing back an Excel spreadsheet, so there might be all these extra empty columns in here, and this is what the data. This is the data that we have. Now you can say, hey, let me just take a quick look at that data. We can open it up and see we have our towns in Chittenden County listed on the left-hand side. We have a rep district. We don't have any rep districts here to use in some sort of generic database. And we can see the people that ran for office, right? So you can see, woo, look at this. In Vermont, everybody runs for office, right? We have, 630,000 people. And it seems like the majority of them want to run for office. And you can see these are a lot of write-in candidates and a lot of your mainstream candidates that we have here. So look at this. It goes on and on and on and on, right? So we have boatloads of people. Now, mind you, each county is going to have a different list of people, right? So we just couldn't, God forbid they should make it easy for us. So there's no way for us just to stack the data, because we would bring in headers and then the names would be all convoluted. So we can't do anything like that. Another beautiful thing, you can see as I'm clicking on this box up here, it gives me all the statistics about what's in there, the ended run, when that little process processed, if there was any errors, and how that is actually operating. And let's say I want to look at the towns for some reason. We want to analyze these towns. I can click on this here, and it shows me the fields that are in the towns, the numeric values. I can identify if there's extra characters in there and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff taking place here. So this is a beautiful thing, right? So we know how many records came in. Look at this. We have 372 columns and 10 rows of data, right? Kind of crazy. And then we can do the same thing here, right? Here we have, in this part of Chittenden County, there was 30 columns and 6 rows. There's only 6 towns, right? So these are the 6 towns in that column. And then over here we have 179 columns, right? So there's like all these write-in candidates for these areas. So the question is, how can we get this into a single file so we can do something with it and audit it? We don't want to take out a record, right? We don't want to fake this data and then say there's been fraud, right? So we can, there's ways of doing it. So what we're going to do here is, you can see the data is not in a good format. We need to unpivot this data, right? This is like a big pivot table. We can't do crap with this, right? So we're going to have to unpivot the data. So we'll have the town, the rep, and then maybe we'll have the candidate name and then the number of votes, right? If we do that, we'll be able to stack all our data. We're going to have a huge long file, but it's going to be usable and we're going to be able to audit it. So watch what I'm going to do here. There's a function here called gather. And what it basically does, it will unpivot the data. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to select, I selected all the names. You see all the names that are here. I've selected those. And then we're going to unpivot it. We're going to have the candidate in one row, in one column, and the number of votes. So and the number of votes. So we're going to have it's going to have candidate, and then the candidate. Let's make sure I spell that right. Column name is going to be candidate, and then the value is going to be votes. So now we're going to have 2 additional columns, and it's going to say, so here we go. It's going to be all the way at the end, right? We have all these nut jobs running for office. So we have candidates. Now we have the candidates listed, right? So town, candidate, all the candidates are in a nice column, right? We can stack this now. And then we have the number of votes. So let's do the same thing for this one here. Gather. We're going to select everything. Here's the problem too, folks. You got to make sure you use the same name, right? Because it's we want to stack these. So we're going to say candidate votes. So here you see we're going to have again town, rep, candidate, and the votes. Note here, it says 26 columns were removed, 100 new 60 columns added. Over down here below, it's given us a running total. What came in, what went out. If it needs updating, you can pause this. Like I work with gigabytes of data, gigabytes, right? So every time you put a new column, this would process for you, and it could take some time if you don't have a super duper fast computer, but it's letting us know the status. Again, we can come in here and click on warnings. There's no warning messages. It would tell us if there was a problem in there. And again, we have a beautiful audit trail. We have not changed any of our data. Gather. Oh, look at that. On and off. I think it said candidate and votes, right? So again, let's see what happens. I want to make sure I have candidate and votes. I use candidate and votes, candidate and votes. Hey, check that out. So right now we have all our data in a format. Now we can stack it, right? When I say stack it, we're going to make a massive, we're going to make so I'm going to come in here. See this command here? It's one another. So look what it just did. So now we have 7,550 rows of data, right? So let's make sure we take a look at that, make sure we're doing a good job. Give me a second. So now we can do something with this data if we really want it to, right? So now we have it stacked. But when we come in here, we can go in here and we say, hey, let's check out the candidates. Again, remember what we can do here? We can click on this and it's saying, holy cow, look at this. Look what we have for, it's going to sort it by order. We have a candidate here listed as total votes. We need to get rid of that because we know that that spreadsheet wasn't made to be useful, right? It was made, it's just, you know, unfortunately, you get what you get from government. So we want to remove, we probably want to remove those total votes, right? And look at this. We have all these onesies and twosies write-ins. We probably want to have a way to identify these write-ins as a separate entity. So we can create a column to do that, right? So that's what we're going to do. Let's do this and we'll create a new column. And then we're going to say, if it's a write-in, we're going to put yes or no as a write-in candidate, because we probably want to filter out those onesies and twosies, right? These are those protest votes that we actually have out there. Are we tracking, folks, on what we're trying to do here? Pretty cool, right? All right, I'm glad you're enjoying this. So let's go back, and I see a lot of happy faces out there. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. Now that we have our data all stacked up, let's figure out how we get those write-ins. So I'm going to create a new column. Right, let's create a transform. Look how nicely it's broken out. Has all these analytical functions. It does cluster analysis for it. We can decode, dedupe. We can filter. Manipulation here. Column. And we're going to call this write-in, right? The write-in. We'll just call it a write-in. We're not going to give it any value. We could have gone in and created a value. So look what we have now. We have our data. We took all that ugly spreadsheet, which we couldn't stack. It was in the table format. We unpivoted it. It's called the gather function here. Then we stacked all the tables together. And now we want to create a separate row to get rid of these write-in protest votes, right? So now we have a column here that's empty that says write-in. So the next thing does, how do we populate that, right? And remember, we're trying to keep an audit trail here, right? We don't want to, you know, we're not academia. We're not in here going in here and looking to create fake data to publish somewhere. So here we go. I just clicked on the if statement, right? So watch this, folks. This is really cool. Did you bring an extra pair of socks? Because they're going to be blown off here. I'm going to look at the candidate, right? We stacked them all in the candidate name. And I'm going to say, if that candidate name, see this candidate name? If in that string there's write, if it says write, like you see right there, it says write in, that's a standard format. So if it contains write, and I'm going to turn off case sensitivity because, again, we're working with government people. It may not be standard across the different spreadsheets. So if it says write, we're going to put in here yes. If it's not a write-in, we're going to put no. And remember, so now this is going to be an audit trail for us. So let's come back here and look at that column. And we're going to rename this column write-in. I'm just going to call it the right column. And you can see it's automatically identified all those write-in voters for us, right? Because we probably, if we're going to analyze this data, you know, these little onesies and twosies and these protest votes that people waste squandered on, we want to eliminate those from there. So let's assume now tell, look, how is it possible? Let's take a look at this data now, right? Remember, the way the data was structured, there could be a write-in in one town, and it would have the number of write-ins, and in the other towns, it would have 0. Again, the data is not in a practical format that's set up for analysis. So let's get rid of all the rows of data. And we know there's 7,000 of these, over 7,000 that have no votes, right? So we're not interested. It's just the way the data was structured. So let's get rid of that, right? So we can come in here. And there's a filter command. I know the commands by heart, but let's go in here and do filter. Filter. And what we want to do is we want to get rid of, we want to remove, right? We want to remove where it says votes. We want to remove if there's less than one vote. Look at all this, right? This is beautiful. All right, so we'll just say remove one vote. So what we're doing again here is if it has one vote, we're actually going, if it has no votes, we're going to remove them. So look now, we only have the rows, the candidates and rows of data with one vote. Now look, this is an audit. So we can go back here. We can see exactly what we did. We can see what came in, what went out, right? Over here, oh, look, there's a little error message here. It just says that there's been one column added to the data, right? So we got to be careful. We understand there has been one column to the data. So right now, we went ahead and we filtered the data. I just blew up the window so you when we click on it, it's going to give us more information. Holy cow, look at this. We have all this nice vote data in here. All right, so let's take a look at that, right? So we have one, so there's a lot of people with one votes in here, and then it goes up from there. So that's interesting. That's an interesting take on that data. So we have our write-ins. We have our candidates. Let's take a look at the candidate names. Oh, we got a problem here. You know, we probably want to get rid of these total votes, right? So what happened is the way this spreadsheet was set up, at the bottom of the spreadsheet, I'm sure it says total votes. And that's going to be a duplicate. So we're in here filtering. So we might as well get rid of these total votes too, right? Those don't count. So let's come in here. We're going to add it. And we're going to look at here and the candidate. If it says total, we'll put total V. It's not going to be case sensitive. So it should eliminate those. So if we come back here and click on our candidate, look at that. Our total, those totals are gone. Now we're left with all the people. And remind you, this is just showing 85 out of the 100. So now here we go. We have a better understanding now of the town, the candidate, how many votes they got, and then if they were a write-in or not. If they were a write-in or not. So now let's go ahead and analyze this data to see what we actually come up with. So what we're going to do here is let's think about this for a second. Maybe we should get rid of those. Let's get rid of those. Let's sort out those write-in votes, right? We don't want, you know, we're not interested in it. That's an interesting. So if it says yes, contains yes, we want to take them out, right? You know, and we know exactly what we did, right? So we have an audit trail here. We can tell we went from 6 columns to 100 and 100 to 100. So we're at 6 columns, 188 rows. Down here, it tells us that it's processed and exactly what happened. We know coming in, we had 7,054 rows. So now we're in good shape here. So now we can look at this and decide how we want to look at this data. So let's look at it by town, because remember, we couldn't look at it by town before. It was in 3 different things. So we're going to sort this data by town and the number of votes. So it's going to tell us by town. We'll have that in alphabetical order, in descending order, the votes. And now we will know how people actually work. So we can come in here, and what we're going to do is, I know it's the sort command. There's a gazillion commands in here. We'll go to sort, and we're going to sort it by town. We're going to put it in alphabetical order. We're going to add another sort. We're going to put votes in descending order. So what it's going to tell us is by town, the number of votes that were received. So we have the first town here, and then the number, the candidate, and the number of votes they've received. So that's very cool, right? So we took these 3 spreadsheets where we couldn't do much with them because it was in a tabular format. There was no way we could stack them. We took these 3 spreadsheets, we unpivoted all of them. we stack them so we can look at them and have a better way of analyzing them, analyzing the data. And now we sorted them by town and vote getter. So now we have the total of Chittenden County, which was in 3 separate spreadsheets. Now we have something to do with it, right? So now we can analyze this data in a different format. That's very interesting. And we have an audit trail. So we know that somebody wasn't monkeying around with this data and doing something differently. But now let's say, hey, I wonder what political party these people belong to. Well, it happens to be, I have a file that has their official, the people that were not write-ins that officially ran and did all the paperwork, did things properly. Let's bring them in and see if we can find their party. So let's do this. I'm going to bring in another file here. Look, I'm just going to drag it and drop it in. And it's the file's going to have, it's an Excel spreadsheet. And let's open it up and take a look at what it says. So it has what they're running for, U.S. Senate. Here are all the people that ran for U.S. Senate in 2022, where they lived, what party they belonged to, their email address, all sorts of, their email address, their website. And we're interested in the party and has a bunch of other stuff. Some of them, look at this one. The ones that ran for U.S. Senate, they thought so much of themselves, they never filed a financial disclosure, right? Meanwhile, the people running for the smaller offices had the integrity of filing a financial statement, right? So boo to these people, right? They went ahead and they decided they're going to run. They fill out all the paperwork, and then they decide we're not going to submit our financials. We don't want you to know anything about us, right? Just the stories we're going to tell you in the campaign trail. So watch what we're going to do here. I'm going to select these two, sort, and then the candidate names, and I'm going to do a join. Now, in Excel, you have to admit, join is error prone. Match. So watch what I'm going to do here. I am going to select the command. We are going to do a lookup. We're going to look up a value, or we're just going to look up their race. So we're going to do a lookup, and we're going to use our list of candidates, and we want to look up in their in that candidate listing sheet. We want to understand and pick out what party they're part of. So what we're going to do is on the top key here, we are going to select the candidate name, right? So that's in that top spreadsheet. Now it's saying in that bottom spreadsheet, the bottom key, they call them keys here. We're going to pick up the name on the ballot. Beautiful, right? So we have on the top column is the candidate, the name on the bottom. The value is going to be, let's say we want to pick out we're interested in their party. Where is their party? We want to pick up their political party. And here, you see what it says here under exact? Exact should probably be above it. It is going to look for an exact name. In our case, let's not look for an exact name because we know we're dealing with the government. So there might be some misspellings and stuff in there. So what we can do is we have this ability to go to fuzzy. So we're going to do a fuzzy search, and we want to look for names that are basically, let's look for 90% close, right? And then it's going to say, bring back the first best value. If there's no value, we're going to put no match. We're going to put no match here. We don't know what party they were on. And let's remove case sensitivity, right? Because if our data, that case sensitivity also forces another match. So we got rid of that. The data is running. It tells us here 96 matched. We have 92 unmatched. Over here in our data, it's going to tell us some interesting information. There's no key real warnings in here, but watch what happens. Now we're going to open this up, and bam, look at that, baby. Now we have Chittenden County. We have the candidate, the votes, were they a write-in or not? We know it's not because we eliminated them, and the party they're affiliated with. And then here, You can see there's no match. We can go back and find out why there is no match here, right? They weren't a write-in vote, but they may have been added to the list afterwards, right? So we can go back and say, hey, why are there no matches in here, right? Very interesting, right? So we can check it out and see what happens there. But I think we made an error. We're gonna have to go back and check this for an error. So we selected the party. Let's see, we may not have all the parties listed in here because I noticed we didn't bring back any Republican candidates, which was kind of interesting. Let's ignore the empty columns. Let's do an exact match to see what happens. And then we can come back and take a look at this data again, right? We'll do a little organic override, but you can see it brings back and it says where there was a match or no match. For some reason, these folks didn't line up. We would have to find out why they didn't go back and find out why they may not have lined up. You know, we had the automatic, we had name on ballot, party, exact match. We're going to bring back the first. If there's no match, let's do a fuzzy, right? Let's do let's put this, make it more fuzzy, and see if we get a better match here, right? It's going to say, yeah, the names might not be quite right, and we know we're taking a chance here. So, you know, we're quants. We're not, you know, we're not academics here cheating. So look, so there was a slight difference in the names. When we said exact match, it didn't find it, you know. We could look into it more deeply to understand. Watch what happens here. When I click characters, it's going to show me what characters are in there. So there might be some white space and stuff in there that has created those problems for us. But now, look at that. We can go back and, of course, and go back and check this. But we have all our data rack and stack with a beautiful audit trail. And again, we can do so much more of this data. On this left-hand side, it has, we can change number base. We can find outliers, remove columns. We can scale data. We can resequence it, split columns, split rows. It does all sorts of mathematical functions for us. And the beauty is, again, we have an audit trail. And to me, that's a huge benefit of using something like this. So what are your thoughts? So again, our intent here was to show that there's these low-cost tools out there that can help us prep our data on our desktop. So imagine if you're dealing with sensitive client data, you want to have it on your desktop. We can easily go ahead and scrub the data if we chose to do so in any number of ways. We can add to it, we can filter it, we can do find and replace, we can split columns, and we have a totally auditable trail. I can take this data now, this file, out of Easy Data Transform, download it and share it with the world. I'm saying, here's the data, have at it. Here's the final results. I know the data was all jacked up, you know, and you might have difficulty with it, and we don't want you to make a mistake. Take a look at the data, and here's what this data looks like when we aggregated it, made some exclusions. It shows you the exclusions in there, so we're not hiding anything. So pretty cool, right? So I'm glad. Oh yeah, I can see I have that chat window open. I can see that some of you thought this was really cool. So again, you can download that file and share it. I've built into this, and believe it or not, you can put code in here too. It takes regex code, so you can get really fancy about the context that you're the data that you're looking at, and it can. There's just all sorts of other cool stuff that you can put in here and analyze. I encourage you to take a look. Very inexpensive, and for the peace of mind it brings you, it's just absolutely amazing. I'm using this tool again. I'm getting the data, and it's a campaign season. I'm downloading all the financial reports that in the state of Vermont. You have to submit financial reports, the nonprofits and all the lobbyists and stuff like that. So in that data, of course, I think it's intentional. They screw up the addresses and the names and stuff like that. Using fuzzy logic, I'm going to be able to figure it out. So I'm going to be able to identify donors that maybe maxed out to a campaign, to an independent candidate, and then decided to give it to a PAC, right? And then, so it shows that it went to the PAC, and then I expose how money gets moved through the political system to create a tree that shows how people are slipping money into candidates legally, but deceitfully at the same time. So again, love this tool. It's low cost in the world where critical thinking, complex problem solving, data literacy, data analytics, innovation, and strategic thinking are going to be needed. This is another tool for us. Remember, my last video, if you didn't see it, I did a video on Data Tab, which is the most phenomenal, low-cost statistical analysis package in the market right now. It is game changer. If you're in Six Sigma, you need to go take a look at this and stop spending $1,800 on software that you rarely use. It's cloud-based. It does some incredible stuff. So again, I'm recommending, for you need to get on this AI and automation bus. Your jobs are probably really at risk for being leveraged by AI. You're going to be leveraged out of work by AI and automation. Get these skills under your belt, and because these skills are always going to be needed, right? And that's a book from the reading of Dan. I honestly believe that if you keep an eye on what's going on in the marketplace, that is what you're seeing. So 2 tools, man, to help us, get our skills up to quick. DataTab.net, I believe it is. And then Easy Data Transform, I believe it's .com. It's going to get you on your way of being a statistical thinker, understand data literate, more data literate, the statistical thinking, and you're going to be able to do some fantastic data analytics. And more importantly, you're going to have an audit trail. I don't want you to end up on the front page like all these academics now with all their fraudulent data. Another way you can use this tool, you can build in custom scripts. There's a technique for fraud analytics called Benford's Law, and it's the understanding the distribution of the leading digits of a number, right? And it doesn't occur. There's a many of us are getting data from other resources. We have no idea if that data has been monkeyed with or tampered with. This is another way of bringing it in here. We can quickly look at the data and say, you know what? Did you tamper with this data? Because it doesn't follow this natural law that is actually in effect. So again, I'm Dan Feliciano, OpEx 90. I do Lean Six Sigma training and certification, which is, it's going to always be in demand, especially more so now. If you need to drive productivity, if you need to drive profits, it's a good way to do it. Lean Six Sigma will help you develop your critical thinking skills, your complex problem solving skills, data literacy, data analytics, right? And, we'll work on that strategic thinking. I've written some great bots. I have a bot out there. If you're a consultant and you're going out to a client site and you haven't done a strategic analysis to at least assess their market, shame on you, right? I have a strategy bot out there. Feel free to contact me, Dan at OpEx 90, and I can help you out with that and give you access to that bot. If you don't believe AI is taking over your job, come back next year and we'll talk about how you might be able to look for a new job. But invest in yourself. Go out and buy one of these large language model subscriptions. Don't say, oh, well, my company wouldn't pay for it, so I didn't bother to learn it, right? You own this, folks. So go out and get ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini Pro, whatever it is. You need to understand it. I'm going to do some videos in the future that shows you how fantastic it is, especially for data analytics and strategy. Make sure you learn these other tools and techniques, man. Prepare yourself for the future. AI and automation is here. And if you're in a rules-based role, accounting, project management, legal, anything that's role-based government work. The government, it's going to have to adopt this, especially for their simple rules-based things. It's here. So I want you to think about this. Reach out to me. I have a strategy bot. I have these other tools and techniques. I'm going to be making great videos, right? We're seeing a lot of more people interested in the data analytics and that Lean Six Sigma. Great time to be involved, to develop those critical thinking, complex problem solving, and data analytical skills. And we'll see you soon, folks. I'm going to end here, but keep in mind, datatab.net, favorite. I have no affiliation with them. I'm just sharing with you the love that I have for these apps, and Easy Data Transform. Check it out. It's going to really rock your world, my friends. Have a good one, my friends. Enjoy.